Now in the next blessed verse of the Holy Quran, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala states, مَا يَوَدُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ وَلَا الْمُشْرِكِينَ أَنْ يُنَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ مِّنْ رَبِّكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَخْتَصُّ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ. Neither the disbelievers amongst the people of the book, Ahl Kitab, and nor the polytheists, Mushrikeen, would wish that there should be sent down to you any good. What is the good? Revelation, that there should be sent down to you any good from your Lord. But Allah chooses for His mercy whosoever He wills, and verily Allah is the possessor of great bounty. Now, as per narrations, there were 4,000 prophets who came to Bani Israel. Therefore, Bani Israel were of the view that the leader of the prophets will also be from amongst Bani Israel. They thought that they were the heirs of the prophethood. And then they were saddened when they learned that the leader of the prophets, the honorable, the most distinguished, the unrivaled, the unparalleled, the unprecedented, a beacon of hope, a bearer of glad tidings, a paragon of virtue, forgiveness and tolerance, an omen of love, the beloved of Allah, the beloved of all, the beloved of all, the beloved of all, the beloved of Allah, the seal of prophethood, the seal of apostleship, the leader of prophets, the holy prophet, the warmer of hearts, the coolness to eyes, the holy prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Since 4,000 prophets came to Bani Israel were of the view that the leader of the prophets will also be from amongst them. But then they were saddened when they learned that the leader of prophets, the holy prophet, peace be upon him, did not belong to Bani Israel, but instead to Bani Ismail. So the hypocrites of Makkah al-Mukarramah, they were also saddened because they said that why did not a rich or an influential man of Makkah or Taif was granted the prophethood? But the orphan nephew of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib was never deemed as appropriate by the hypocrites. They thought that he was an orphan. Why should he be the seal of prophets and the leader of prophets? They held the belief that a rich person should be granted prophethood. Who were they to decide? And this was confirmed by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala when He states, مَا نَنْسَخْ مِنْ آيَةٍ أَوْ نُنْسِهَا نَأْتِ بِخَيْرٍ مِّنْهَا أَوْ مِثْلِهَا أَلَمْ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَىٰ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. When we abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, we bring forth one that is better than it, or at least similar to it. Do you not know that Allah has absolute control over everything? So for the purposes of shaking the faith of the ordinary, simple Muslims, the laymen, the simple Muslims, the Jews would try to instill many doubts in their hearts. And one of such doubts was that they would say to the Muslims that, see, the Holy Quran gives one command today and another tomorrow, thereby trying to establish that there was no consistency in the Holy Quran and in the commandments laid down in the Holy Quran by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Moreover, they would say that such an act was not worthy of Allah Ta'ala, and thus they would further advise the ordinary Muslims to follow their path while believing that the Holy Quran was not the divine word of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, since the commandments laid down in it therein were not consistent in nature. However, this was a false accusation. It was in response to such accusations that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala revealed the following blessed verse of the Holy Quran, which is, مَا نَنْسَخْ مِنْ آيَةٍ أَوْ نُنْسِهَا نَأْتِ بِخَيْرٍ مِّنْهَا أَوْ مِثْلِهَا أَلَمْ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَىٰ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. When we abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, we bring forth one that is better than it, or at least similar to it. Do you not know that Allah has absolute control over everything? In Alam ta'alam anna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Now in the laws of fiqh, the word nasakh is a term which has been used, which means that the commandment which was laid down by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in the first instance was not forever, but was only in place and in effect for only a certain period of time. And following the lapse of that time, that commandment would not then further be effective anymore. When the second commandment was laid down in its place, it repealed the previous commandment. So there is no such problem in such a practice. There was a verse and there was a commandment laid down in it which was only for a certain period. And after the lapse of that time, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala brought forth another verse, another commandment. So there is no problem in such a practice. As Sayyidi Shaykh Ahmad Mohsin Yousafi, my father, my mentor, my access, my spiritual guide interprets this, that this is purely out of the divine wisdom of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, because in order to control the ignorance and in order to control the ignorant nations of the Arabs, a well placed strategy was needed which would ensure that the Arabs left their long standing traditions and customs and ill practices, and they gradually moved towards the practices which were permissible. So when the Arabs brought faith, gradually the commandments were also changed, and while realizing the annals of time, new commandments took place and then they were effected. At the end, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala firmly responded that I am the omnipotent and I may do as I desire. Ala kulli shay'in qadir. For instance, we have previously discussed that drinking alcohol was first made permissible in Makkah al-Mukarramah and later for a while in Medina al-Munawwara as well. However, when the blessing of faith reached the hearts of Muslims, the commandment was replaced with a new commandment which stated that now drinking alcohol, gambling, etc. has been made impermissible. At first, drinking alcohol was made permissible, but then gradually new verses came, new commandments took place, and then they were affected. At first, alcohol was allowed, but then the drinking of alcohol, gambling, they were all made impermissible in Islam. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, Yas'alunaka 'anil khamri wal maisir Qul fihima ismun kabirun wa manafi'u lin-nas wa ismuhuma akbaru min naf'ihima. They ask you about wine and gambling. Please declare, O Muhammad, please declare in them is a great sin. Though they have some profits for people, their sins are far greater than profits. Then Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala stated, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la taqrabu as-salata wa antum sukara hatta ta'lamu ma taqulun. O those who believe, do not approach prayer until you have so much sense that what you say you understand. Subsequently, the following commandment came, wherein Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala stated, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu innamal khamru wal maisiru wal ansabu wal azlamu rijsum min amal ash-shaytani fajtani buhu la'allakum tuflihun. O believers, wine and gambling and idols and foretelling through arrows are only unclean things, a work of shaitan, a work of devil. So save yourself from them that you may prosper. So you may prosper. Thus, by way of a well-defined strategy, the Arabs were gradually made to change their long-standing traditions, customs and ill practices. At first, alcohol was allowed, but gradually it was made impermissible, and this is precisely what the context of the matter here is. Hazrat Allama Sadr al-Sharia writes that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, would offer his prayers in Makkah al-Mukarramah while facing towards the Kaaba. While facing towards the Kaaba. And it was not known whether this commandment was laid down in the divine book or in the Sunnah. Then when the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, arrived in Medina al-Munawwara, he offered his prayers while facing the Bayt al-Muqaddas for 16 months. And such a practice was also not established from the divine book, but instead was proven from the Holy Sunnah of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. It was not written in the Holy Quran. Then the commandment was removed from the book, and following that, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, started offering his prayers while facing towards Masjid Haram. فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Say, so, O beloved, turn your face towards the sacred mosque, Kaaba, at once. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala laid down a clear commandment in the Holy Quran. O beloved, now turn your face towards the Kaaba. So in view of the foregoing, it is established that it is due to the wisdom of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala that over the passage of time He made such decisions and then laid down the commandments in the blessed verses of the Holy Quran. To access the same lecture in Urdu, please click on the link available below in the description.